Okay, so this is going to be a video regarding our foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy, in regards to Israel and the Palestinians. Now, as many of you know, and many of my subscribers do, perhaps some of you don't, the Palestinian Authority is going to go to the UN next week in order to ask for official statehood recognition in the Security Council. And as you know, I'm kind of thinking about this, and so needless to say, the United States State Department has already come out saying that they're going to veto the whole thing. They're going to veto it. Now, this is a very this is very interesting because basically they don't have a diplomatic leg to stand on anymore at this point. Because on the one hand, our foreign policy officially says that we are fully supporting the Arab Spring, right? The Arab uprisings against their dictators and so on. But on the other hand, we're now going to deny, once again, any support to the Palestinians in diplomatic terms. Now, here's how I think this whole thing is going to play out, and I might be completely wrong about it, but here's what I think it's going to play out. How it's going to play out. First off, right now. A single veto by the United States would expose the entire hypocrisy regarding this entire issue to the rest of the world. And it would not look good, okay? So, of course, behind the scenes now, the United States is very busy convincing the other members in the Security Council, and remember, this is not the General Assembly, but simply the Security Council, to not have them be on board with the Palestinians. In other words, to abstain from a vote altogether, which would then make the United States veto on that issue unnecessary. It's kind of like the Supreme Court saying we're not going to hear the case, you know. Well, it's more complicated than that, but that's basically how it works out on a diplomatic level. But regardless of what the United States and the security members will do, it will expose, once again, the hypocrisy, our foreign policy hypocrisy towards all of this. These negotiations, so-called peace negotiations, have been going on for decades and decades. And in that regard, neither the Israelis nor the U.S. foreign policy establishment has any excuse whatsoever at this point anymore to deny the Palestinians their own state. It's as simple as that. So I want to share an article with you. It's controversial. It comes from the Israeli press, from Haaretz, and since I don't know how to pronounce these things, so please forgive me if I don't pronounce the names correctly. But in any case, it is Gideon Levy, whose article I'm quoting from here, and I really like to share the whole thing with you. So, but before I do that, what I want to preface this by saying that everybody expects, okay, this whole thing to fall through, basically. So no, the Palestinians are not going to gain immediate statehood. It's not going to change anything on the ground, but it will further increase diplomatic pressure on the Western world to recognize the quest for self-determination of the Palestinians, and in a larger picture, people in the Middle East, real people in the Middle East, once and for all. Or should I say, it just continues the pressure. And so I believe that this move by Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, is in a diplomatic sense a very smart move, because it does expose all of this hypocrisy. So let me read this article from Gideon Levy, and here it goes. What will we tell the world next? He's talking about Israel at the UN. What could we say? Whether in the General Assembly or the Security Council, we will be exposed in all our nakedness. Israel does not want a Palestinian state, period. And it doesn't have a single persuasive argument against the establishment and the international recognition of such a state. So what will we say that we're opposed? 4 prime ministers, Benjamin Netanyahu amongst them, have said that they're in favor, but that it must be accomplished through negotiations. So why haven't we done it yet? Is our argument that we object to its being a unilateral measure? What's more unilateral than the settlements that we insist on continuing to build? Or perhaps we will say that the route to a Palestinian state runs through Ramallah and Jerusalem, not New York, a la the U.S. Secretary of State. The state of Israel itself, mind you, was created through the UN. Next week it will be Israel's moment of truth, and more precisely the moment in which its deception becomes revealed. Be it the president, the prime minister, or the ambassador to the UN, even the greatest of public speakers will be incapable of standing before the representatives of nations of the world and explaining Israel's logic. None of the 3 will be able to convince them that there is any merit to Israel's position. 32 years ago, Israel signed a peace agreement with Egypt, in which it undertook to recognize the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and to establish an autonomous authority in the West Bank and Gaza Strip within 5 years. Nothing happened. 18 years ago, a prime minister of Israel signed the Oslo Accords, and in which Israel undertook to conduct talks in order to achieve a final status agreement with the Palestinians, including the core issues, within 5 years. That too did not occur. Most of the provisions of the agreement have foundered since then, in the majority of cases because of Israel. And what will Israel's advocates at the UN say about that? For years, Israel has claimed that Yasser Arafat was the sole obstacle to peace with the Palestinians. Arafat died, and once again, nothing happened. Israel claimed that if only the terror were to stop, a solution would appear. The terror did stop, and nothing. Israel's excuses become increasingly empty, and the naked truth was increasingly exposed. Israel does not want to reach a peace agreement or arrangement that would involve the establishment of a Palestinian state. This can no longer be covered up in the UN. And what did Netanyahu's Israel expect the Palestinians to do in this case? Another roundup of photo ops, like the ones with Ehud Barak and Ehud Olmert and Livni, that led nowhere? The truth is that the Palestinians have just three options: to surrender unconditionally and to go on living under Israeli occupation for another 42 years at least, to launch a third intifada, or to mobilize the world on their behalf. They picked the third option, the lesser of all evils, even from Israelis' perspective. What could Israel say about this? That it's a unilateral step, as the United States has said? But it didn't agree to stop the settlements, the mother of all unilateral steps. What did the Palestinians have left? The international arena. And if that won't save them, then another popular uprising in the territories. The Palestinians in the West Bank, 3.5 million today, will not live without civil rights for another 42 years. We might as well get used to it. The world eventually will not stand for this. Can Netanyahu or Shimon Peres explain why the Palestinians do not deserve their own state? Do they have even the slightest of arguments? Nothing. And why not now? We have already seen, especially of late, that time only reduces the possible alternatives in the region. So even that weak excuse is dead. Yesterday, a coalition of Israeli peace organizations published a list of 50 reasons for Israel to support a Palestinian state. Assuming that you only accept 5 of them, isn't that enough? What exactly is the alternative? Now that the heavens are closing in around us, the Israelis, that is. Can Peres or Netanyahu seriously contend that the regional hostility towards us would not have lessened had the occupation already ended and a Palestinian state be established? The truths are so basic, so banal, that it hurts to even repeat them. But unfortunately, they're the only ones we have. And so, a simple question to whoever will be representing us at the UN, and this is Gideon Levy talking about Israel, why not, for heaven's sake? Why no, once again? And to what will we say yes?